Hey folks, Papa Boris here, really excited to do some more analysis of Through the Ages games. This was the first two-player game to finish in Stage 3 of the 2025 Through the Ages World Championship. If you like military games, boy howdy, is this a good game for you. It's also a nice short one, just a 17-rounder. One tiny bit of preamble. I have learned from player and YouTuber Sandwhale a really great trick, which is to change the playback speed. I can't believe I didn't think of this myself, but in YouTube, if you click the gear icon in the bottom right, you can change the playback speed of a video. My old brain cannot process any faster than 1.25 speed, but some people can handle 1.5 speed or even double speed, so I know I do tend to go on, and that can cut some time off. Even 1.25 speed, that'll save you 15 minutes every hour, which is not nothing. Anyways, let's begin. I think we're at the point where no commentary is needed that for this board, Gandy chooses the pyramids. The interesting thing is, what am I going to do? And I thought, of course, about taking just a wonder and a leader, but these are like maybe my two least favorite leaders in Age A. Weidenbaum has also said that he doesn't like the Colosseum in two-player games. And he might have explained why in older videos of his that I haven't watched, so I don't know what the reason is exactly. I still think it's good to get, a military action and a smattering of other benefits, because the military actions are sometimes absolutely crucial. And it's not that I just didn't take this wonder because of something that some guy said. The other issue, of course, is that Engineering Genius is going to roll down into the first action row, and with my opponent having the pyramids, a wonder that you do want to rush, I really hated the idea of giving the Engineering Genius to him for free, especially since I wasn't getting anything great in return. So I elected to just take the Engineering Genius, which is not necessarily a bad play, but it is a little bit dangerous. And if you're wondering, well, why is it dangerous? Let's take a look. My thinking was that by taking this, I caused the Roman roads and Hammurabi to each slide down 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. Roman roads lands here, and that means that on my turn, it will definitely be in the one action spot. So what is the danger then of taking Engineering Genius? Well, we can kind of see it when the cards come out. Can I pause? Can I pause? Oh, let me pause. Yes, okay. I got a little bit unlucky, and both leaders showed up right at the front of the card refill. So why is this unlucky? Well, because now Gandy can just take Hammurabi, and of course it's 2 actions, but Hammurabi gives an extra action, so if there's a leader you can spend 2 actions for, it's him. And then he can go 3 actions, take and play Hammurabi, 4 actions, make him mine. He even has a 5th action left over to do something, extra with, like raise population, or take a food, or take a rock. And the problem then is if you watch what's happening to these leaders, they're going to go down, let's say he takes urban growth, 4 spaces. So Cleopatra lands here, and Hippocrates lands here. This is the bitch spot, so if I don't take Cleopatra, she's gone no matter what. And Roman roads is outside of the clear-away zone. It'll land right there. And the problem is if I take Roman roads, which I want to because it's the only wonder available, this is a bit of a weird draw. We only got 3 wonders out of the normal. Well, it's not that weird. Never mind. It's not that weird. We got 3 out of the 4. So we missed one. I forgot there were only 4 wonders in a 2-player game. So the Roman roads is the only AJ wonder available. It's a good one. I want it, of course, for my Engineering Genius. But then if I take it, Hippocrates clears out as well as Cleopatra. So I either have to spend 3 actions taking a leader and a wonder and building a mine and not playing the leader, or I have to do without a leader or do without a wonder. And I think Gandy should have done that. It's definitely what I would do in this situation. You have a chance to put your opponent in a bind without any sacrifice to yourself whatsoever. Even if you like Ashoka, this is still, I think, in my opinion, the correct move. But I get lucky, he just decides to go for Ashoka. We've seen Gandy take Ashoka before. He puts him in, makes a mine, raises population, totally normal stuff, and then we're going to move on to me. So I catch a break here because now I do just get to have an awesome first turn and start to Age 1. Take and play Hammurabi, get the Roman roads, make mine. And for my last action, my bonus Hammurabi action, there's a bunch of different things I could do. I could take a food, I could play Engineering Genius, I could raise population. Maybe the safest thing is to raise population and just plan to build the Roman roads next turn, but I decided to use the Engineering Genius that I drafted to make the first stage of the Roman roads. This means that next turn I can spend 3 actions to build the Roman roads, and if for whatever random reason there are 2 actions that I want to spend that do not involve me raising my population, I can keep my population unraised an extra turn. It's probably not worth the chance of temple flipping out of here. But it's not a terrible idea either. It's not a huge deal either way, I don't think. I get a colony that I'm probably not going to play, and it's over to Gandy. He plays an event. It's luckily not a temple. We get some free stuff. And now he grabs iron for 2 actions, which I think is totally reasonable. He makes a lab, and he grabs rich land. This is, I think, a little bit instructive. It's not just like, oh, I'll take a yellow for a card, but, you know, it's for a rock, but it's also starting to get the rock production going with Ashoka. He's now got 2 different colors, so until he makes iron and uses this to upgrade a mine, this is essentially giving him an extra rock, so it's quite a useful grab. You got to make sure to do that kind of thing if you're playing as Ashoka. On my turn, I'm going to, of course, finish the Roman roads, and what to do with my last 2 actions? Well, I could take alchemy. I could just continue to let my workers not be grabbed. And if alchemy were like in these spots, which it could have been, I think I probably would have taken alchemy and raised population. But here I decide to pass on the alchemy, I raise population and grab cultural heritage. My thinking is, let Gandy have the alchemy. There's another copy in the deck. I can get it later. Of course, later it might be difficult to get it. That's why it's okay sometimes to take a card for 2 actions now, especially if there's not a big opportunity cost. But alchemy, you know, it does in this case take 5 actions to take, research and upgrade twice. It also takes 6 rocks and an upfront cost of 4 science. Cultural heritage is just 2 actions and I get 2 science immediately. So I want to just mainline that science juice. You know, just get it in case I need something exciting. There's monarchy coming down the row, so I might want, you know, a shot of science. And that felt better to me, especially since it let me catch up on my civil action debt with raising population than grabbing the alchemy. So Gandy's up. He takes kind of a weird turn here. So he raises population, fine. Gets 2 stages of the pyramids, okay. And for his last action, he grabs bread and circuses. I'm not 100% sure what the reason for this is. I mean, the man's a good player. Obviously, he knows alchemy's a good card. This was a deliberate choice to pass on alchemy and take bread and circuses. I don't know, man. So it is the only bread and circus available in Age 1. And in a 2-player game, there's also only 1 copy of Theology. So, you know, there's only 2 options for fixing your happy faces. Maybe he just is really concerned about that and thought, you know, just like me, he can go for the 2nd copy of Alchemy. Maybe he thought, hey, we got Pierre de Coubertin in the deck, let's go ahead and get an arena, because obviously he's best with bread and circuses because they're the cheapest. I still think you should just take alchemy here. I mean, you've got the science for it, you're getting an extra rock from Ashoka, so it's easier to upgrade. I mean, I think just get it done. Now, the good news is for me, well, this is bad news for me, because by letting alchemy fall off, there's another alchemy here, he puts me in a tough spot, so now with the alchemy gone, I can't just let this alchemy wheel, and I wouldn't have been able to anyways, because if I take monarchy like I want to, the alchemy will fall off. So it's a little bit annoying. I decide, you know what, screw it, let's just go without monarchy. So I take let's go without alchemy. I take the monarchy, I really like the monarchy with Hammurabi, and there's also a breakthrough here. So after building my 2nd lab, I grab it. So I basically have taken like 4 science here, which is a lot of science. I've used essentially Hammurabi's extra action to get 4 science here over 2 turns. So I figure, you know what, screw it, let's just go without the alchemy. I've got the Roman roads, which will give me science in H2. I got these 2 yellow cards. I will be doing a revolution into monarchy, which gives me an extra action. So I have more actions to potentially take more science with. Let's just deal with having only 2 science production for Age 1 and make it work later. I just didn't want to spend 2 actions here to take alchemy. I mean, I could have, but then I would have been corrupt, or I would have had to go without the breakthrough. Maybe 2 actions, pass on breakthrough, raise population to avoid corruption would have been a reasonable alternative to what I picked. But I do get to raise my population, and then with my extra action, I raise it again. So what I'm doing here is preparing for the revolution into monarchy. You want to try to spend as many blue tokens as possible and be making as few as possible, hence me entering consumption, so that when you do a revolution, you don't have to deal with corruption. All right, so Gandy catches a break. He passed on alchemy. He did successfully get the other alchemy to wheel. On his turn, no event. He finishes building the pyramids, researches iron, upgrades without rich land, which makes sense. Keep this around to be scoring you a rock. And now he can take Saladin or Eleanor, his choice of leader, giving him a 3rd color, so he keeps on cranking out that food juice. I guess juice is the word of the day today for all resources. And then alchemy. Except he actually decides to take rich land in Saladin, so he leaves the alchemy. I don't really understand that. Unlike me, he didn't get breakthrough in cultural heritage in Age 1, there's 2 breakthroughs and I believe 1 cultural heritage. Yeah, so there's only 1 other yellow card left that gives science. That's the second alchemy. It's falling off. He doesn't have an extra source of workers, so printing press is not a good option. Also, the printing press is falling off. There's only 1 more left. I don't know. Maybe some people just don't care about science that much and it's a playstyle thing, but I think here, yes, it's good to take a leader while you've got the chance, and these are both good leaders, but alchemy, man, you got to take the alchemy and, you know, let the 2 rocks stay on the board. But Gandy decides to go no science, so both alchemies are gone. Neither of us is going to get our science going. I decide to do my revolution now. There's a Silk Road and Masonry coming down the way, which I have my eye on. I could, of course, have just done Cultural Heritage and then done the Monarchy normally, paying all my science, but I figured here paying essentially 4 actions to save 6 science was worth it, especially because I get to have a pretty decent turn. I can take Irrigation with Hammurabi's extra action, and then just using a military action, make a warrior to avoid corruption. So this felt really good to me because now I got my actions really fixed. I have 6 actions for the time being. Granted, Age 1 is ending soon, so okay, I got my 5 actions, got my 3rd military action, and I'm ready to maybe build Silk Road. Of course, Gandy could swipe it from me, which is fair, but if he doesn't choose to go in that direction, then I can end up with a really strong economical start here, even though I haven't made Iron, Irrigation, or Alchemy. So Gandy's up. He plays an event. I'm holding my breath to see if he's going to go for the Silk Road and or Masonry. We all get 2 food, which is good for me because I actually can use it, but Gandy, this is just a burden. Now he has more civil action debt to get rid of all this food. So he decides to upgrade a mine with his Richland A. Then he upgrades a mine with Richland 1. Now he's got 2 different colors here. He raises population once and twice to get out of corruption. He's got 1 extra card, or 1 extra action left. And I think for me, the move here is Code of Laws, because it gives a 3rd color, keeps your food production going, and he's going to have the science for it next turn. Now, of course, that would be a lot easier to do if you take an alchemy, but, you know, maybe he thought that on 2 production, he doesn't want to spend 6 science to make Code of Laws when he already has the pyramids. So he decided to go for urban growth instead to get his 3rd color. I think this is a little bit tame. It is speculative. With alchemy gone, it's unclear when he's actually going to use it. If you don't want to take Code of Laws, then I think maybe Knights is important here. There is another copy in the deck, so he could have been thinking, yeah, I can get it later if it's a big deal. But we're going to see a theme in this game that maybe Gandy is a little bit inattentive to military and to what his opponent is trying to do militarily. And this is one such instance. He could have very easily grabbed a Knights here and just chose to take a somewhat meaningless card instead. He's got rocks out the butthole here. He doesn't have anything to use this on. So we can consider, you know, maybe Knights would have been the wiser pick. On my turn, I do go for the Silk Road and Masonry. It's a really strong combination. Since I am going to be on bronze mines for a while, I figure, you know, having the rock reduction for future buildings is really nice. Now, what to do with my other actions? Well, I got a bit of a corruption problem, but I thought I found a pretty good way of dealing with the issue. So I raised my population once to spend 3 blue tokens. I built a temple to spend 3 rocks, and then I built the first stage of the Silk Road with Hammurabi's bonus action, which just gets me out of corruption. And I could also like make a warrior or something here, but I decided not to do that. Instead, I just passed the turn. Now, if you're wondering, hang on a minute, Boris, what is going on here? We built a temple. Did you forget that monarchy raises your urban building limit? Did you not want to build a lab? Well, I had my eye on this legion here. And if I build a lab, then what happens is that this worker is unhappy. Now, of course, I can pay 3 food to make another worker and use that on a warrior, but then these yellow tokens are about to fall off because H2 is about to end, and then I would have corruption issues. So I built a temple, not just because, you know, the culture or whatever, but because I wanted to make sure that I had this worker to put into a warrior without problems. Of course, if there is a free temple event, this looks kind of stupid. But nevertheless, that was my choice, and I think I would make it again. I think it ends up being really good that I get to put this worker on here, but it's a close call, and I certainly wouldn't be mad at anyone who just wanted to make a 3rd lab here and increase their science production some more. All right, Gandy's up, plays an event. We got 3 military cards, and this ends up being pretty significant because if you look at what I draw here, never mind. It's not. It's not at all significant. I get a defense card. It's not actually important. I was going to say the inhabited territory is significant here with Columbus coming down the way, but apparently I already had that in my hand. Okay, so Gandy's up. What's he going to do? Well, I was wondering if he was going to take and build Himeji Castle here. This would get him out of corruption. It would give him 2 culture and 2 strength. And honestly, I think that'd be my pick. Well, you need to swap out Ashoka because Age 1 is ending, so you play Saladin, and then you just take and build Himeji Castle. The culture is really good. I'm currently making 1 from my stupid temple, but he's getting 2. The strength is really nice. In a 2-player game, this is so annoying for your opponent to deal with because they have to just constantly worry about you sacrificing units. It makes it really, really, like, almost prohibitively difficult for them to do war on you, for them to do aggressions on you. And it comes with culture. Now, if you don't want to do that, that's fine. Gandy doesn't elect this option. He takes the cartography, he takes irrigation. He researches irrigation, does 1 upgrade, and then he actually builds a farm. I don't mind this play. I think it's kind of clever. I have seen in Weidenbaum's videos strong players break what I thought was a good rule of thumb, which is don't build 3 farms, but I've seen them do it, and I've seen them win against world caliber competition with this. So not necessarily a bad idea. This is very early to get the farms going, and 3 irrigations is the same as 2 selective breedings. So if you can get that online, then food is solved for the entire game, which is certainly valuable. But he does not take the castle. He also doesn't take swordsman. So this is now the second time. Gandy could have made a grab for something militarily related, but he chose not to. Now, the cartography, which is what he would have had to pass on to get the swordsman, does end up being somewhat significant this game. He could have passed it. He could have also taken a swordsman instead of building that farm, although, of course, corruption is a problem. Although I think he still ends the turn corrupt, does he not? He gets the fighting band, makes a warrior, and yes, he is corrupt. He only loses 1 rock, though, from the corruption. Since he only had 1 rock left at the end of his turn, he takes half his corruption in the form of food. Had he taken swordsman instead of making that farm, he would have lost 2 actual rocks. So something had to give there, but since I know how this game ends, I feel obliged to point out, like, swordsman. It was there. He could have taken it. He also doesn't play Saladin, which, okay, is not crazy. It means that he gets an extra rock and food. I still would have preferred to play Saladin here because I would rather have, excuse me, have the extra action of the free replacement and the extra action from Saladin himself. So it's 2 extra actions. To me, 2 extra actions are worth more than 1 rock and 1 food from Ashoka. So I take the iron because it landed in my lap. I research it. I take Columbus because I have this inhabited territory, and I think, end of the age. You can switch into an H2 leader quickly, get 2 yellow tokens. That seems good. I maybe would have, taken something else if it had been in the 1 action area, but Leonardo is obviously kind of weak without me having an alchemy, and I'm not having any plans for this printing press. Actually, I'm not even sure how strong these guys are either. Michelangelo is just 1 culture per turn, and maybe building or putting another wonder under construction more easily. Maybe I could have considered getting the university after finishing the masonry. But anyway, he was 2 actions. I didn't want to bother with that, so I take Columbus. I replace him. I replace Hammurabi with him because it's the last turn of the age to do so. Now let's upgrade some mines, and then for my last action, I think perhaps it would have been worth researching masonry and paying my civil action debt because I need this before I build the Silk Road. So this makes it so that next turn I can finish the Silk Road for 2 actions and have 3 to work with instead of having to pay 3 actions and having only 2 to work with. But I decide to get a little bit greedy. I play Cultural Heritage. This uses the Silk Road bonus to get an extra science. I don't know how important it was to do that because I didn't need the science at the moment. I think if I had to go back, I would get that masonry down. In any case, my turn is over. I do play the Legion tactic now because I have a lot of cards that I want to keep. I want to keep the 2 defense cards and the inhabited territory for Columbus. And if I kept the Legion in hand to avoid giving Gandy the chance to copy it, something would have had to give. I would have had to throw away a defense card. All right, so we reach age 2. Ashoka dies. We got some important cards coming out here. The Constitutional Monarchy. The Development of Religion, which I was not happy to see because it gives Gandy a temple that he needs, and it gives me a temple I don't need. Now it's his turn. What's he going to do? Well, he's got a little bit of corruption to address. He decides to raise population, research cartography, and raise population again to get out of corruption. Now, what to do with the last two actions? Well, obviously, you got to play Saladin and then take Swordsman, right? Take the Swordsman. This is opportunity number 3 to relatively easily and without any hassle pay some attention to your military. But Gandy, after playing Saladin, decides to upgrade his farm. And that is sensible. It is paying a civil action debt. It's getting something out of the way. But if we follow the principle of immediacy, had he been only getting 3 food this turn instead of 4, he would have still had enough to get a population next turn. That extra food doesn't do anything right now. But the Swordsman does give him a chance right now to upgrade his strength. Okay, not right now because he doesn't have enough science for it. Maybe that's what he was worried about. If this had been an alchemy, then he would have at least had a way forward with upgrading his science. But he doesn't take the Swordsman for whatever reason, and so that falls off the rack. So now it's over to me, and what am I going to do? I decide not to use Christopher Columbus. The reason is that I can still raise population and make my 3rd warrior, and, you know, get that Legion online and be prepared for any strength-based events that Gandy might have shoved in there. It's still relevant, though, to play the inhabited territory, because if I use Columbus for this, I save the action not having to raise population, and I have a yellow token left in the bank even after I do raise population, so I make an extra food. I chose to spend these things because I was hoping, hey, let's take 1 draw out of age 2 and see if we can get a better colony for Columbus to shoot off with. I take the masonry, I build the Silk Road, so I got 2 actions to work with. I decide to raise population, make a warrior, because that was the plan. I want to get ahead of Gandy, at least make it annoying for him, maybe cause him to shut off Saladin's bonus of strength, of a civil action, and do it with strength instead. And I could have grabbed knights here, and maybe I should have. Later on, we're going to see this drama. It doesn't really do anything. But given what I could see happening at the time, I thought the drama made sense because there is Bach here. I am going to get an inhabited territory. If I take the drama, Bach goes 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. So then after Gandy's turn, Bach lands here in the 1 action row, guaranteed. I can take him after shooting off Columbus, play him, and start getting some culture generation going. Right now, I'm already making 4 culture thanks to the Silk Road and 2 temples. I'll be making an extra 2 in H3 from the Roman Road. You know, there is a way here after using my yellow tokens. If you think about it, right, I got an extra yellow token from Roman Road, and now I'm getting 2 more from inhabited territory, so that's 3. I can shove these yellow tokens into dramas, or at least 1 or 2 of them, start making, let's say, with 2 dramas, an extra 6 culture per turn with Bach, and just try to run away with the game. So I don't think I made the wrong choice here, but perhaps if I was a more insightful player, I might have realized that taking knights was more important. In any case, I throw away the rebellion. It is nice to have, but that's another cost of not playing inhabited territory. I obviously want to keep the defense cards, and I want to keep the colony I'm planning to play with Columbus. So, you know, keeping that was just not an option. All right, so Gandy decides to fix his science by putting the university under construction, which he may have, it's been on the row for a while. He may have been planning for this, though that also means that maybe taking Swordsman would have been a good thing to do. He takes it, and he just builds it. So there we go. Science is fixed. And now he grabs the breakthrough for some more science. And I want to take a moment and pause here. If we look at the situation, Gandy's civilization is pretty great. He doesn't have any issues. His food is fixed for the game. His rocks, you know, an H3, 6 rocks maybe isn't quite enough, but still, it's H2 start. Bam, he's got 6 rocks. Science is fixed. It's decent enough for now. Culture, he's a little bit behind, but nothing crazy. Strength, a little bit behind, but nothing crazy. Actually, he's going to use Saladin for strength, so he's even ahead on strength. So it looks like everything's going fine. He's got decent actions, decent everything. It's hard to believe, what are we at here? Round 9? You know, like 8 rounds from now, the game is going to be over, and by then, his civilization is going to be in ruins. It's just crazy how fast things can change in a game of Through the Ages. And it all kind of starts on my next turn. So, Gandy... Oh, God, the replay, I can never click the button on time. Gandy passes the turn, and my original plan was, you know, do the Bach drama thing, and maybe that was still the correct thing to do. But there is, in a 2-player game, only 1 copy of Rifleman. It's here for 3 actions, which sucks because I only have 5. But I was like, man, there's like 100% chance that if the rifleman goes in here, Gandy's going to take it. And then it's going to be difficult for me because then he can like research the rifles, upgrade them, get ahead of me on strength, all that bad stuff. I thought it sucks, but I got to just take these riflemen for 3 actions. In fact, I research it and I upgrade one. What I'm trying to do is just be annoying. It does look like he put some strength-based events in here. He's using Saladin for strength just to make the difference between being one behind or one ahead. That only matters if you put strength-based events in there. So I'm like, we just gotta deal with it. We gotta get these rifles down and make it happen. Now for my last action, I could still take Johann Buck, and maybe I should have. Maybe having Buck with the drama would have just been pretty great, but I decided to take selective breeding. I already have irrigation. This isn't strictly necessary. I do, again, have 3 extra yellow tokens from Roman roads and the inhabited territory from Columbus, which goes a long way towards mitigating irrigation's weaknesses. It means that I am here in my bank instead of here, so irrigation will be good for a while. I think there's a strong argument to be made that Bach would have been the correct move. But I choose the selective breeding, and my turn is over. So now I'm waiting to see if Gandy's going to play an event or not. He does, and it is the deposit. So just a safeguard here. We all get some free rocks. And Gandy makes another very significant decision here. He decides, having seen the constitutional monarchy fall off the row, to take Bach and raise population and put the Kremlin under construction. On the one hand, this does make sort of sense. He's got the bread and circuses to fix his happy faces, and this will give him culture which he needs, military action which he needs, and civil action, all of which he needs. So there's a plan here. Kremlin, Bach, get the opera at some point later on. There's 2 copies of opera in a 2-player game, so it's a very good chance you're going to get one, and then try to get the culture win. But it is worth noting that the cannon is falling off, so this is like the 3rd opportunity that Gandy had to fix his military. I don't think it would have cost him that much. It's not like the Kremlin is crucial. It's nice, but it's not absolutely critical. There are 2 other wonders coming down the way that you can invest your rocks in if you want a way to invest rocks. If for these 3 actions, he could have taken cannon. He could have researched a cannon. He could have made a cannon right now. He could have just beaten me on flat strength. He could have taken engineering genius to help with one of these later wonders. He could have taken architecture. Granted, that's a bit expensive for a science. But there were other things he could have done with these 3 actions, but he chose to let the cannon go. And I think it's one of those things that's important, especially if you're a newer player and you watch what happens in this game. Strength isn't just a matter of like trying to stay close to your opponent. Right now, Gandy's close, and I can't do aggressions on him or really do any kind of war. But you also have to like look ahead to what your opponent is trying to do. Your opponent got these rifles. Cavalry are now falling into the 1 action slot because you took the Kremlin. So your opponent's got the rifles and the cavalry. It can really quickly get out of control if you're letting your opponent get these military technologies, which they have the rocks and the science to actually, and the workers to actually invest in. So taking some preemptive measures to make sure that your military is attended to, that's not a word, may be important. But Gandy chooses to go for the wonder, so he passed the turn. He also takes an extra action with Saladin. I think that actually makes sense because he's behind even with the 2 strength. So all the 2 strength is doing is it is like guaranteeing that if I do an aggression, he can play a card and fight it off. But if you have a defense card here, like if this is an H2 defense card, you can fight off aggressions anyway. And so there's no point. The 2 strength does nothing, so might as well take the extra action. So that kind of tells me that he probably has a defense card, and I think it was the correct play for him to make. So what do I do on my turn? Well, I'm going to definitely take these cavalrymen. I was wondering what else to do with my turn. I definitely considered like putting the ocean liner under construction because it is a very good wonder and I have the masonry. But ultimately, with this war over technology and Gandy repeatedly not paying attention to his military, I thought maybe there's a chance I can catch him with his pants down and just end the game with a big war. It would take a bit of luck. I'd have to draw a tactic to go with the war. But even with just rifles, I may be able to steal a token or 2 from him. So I decide not to go for the wonder construction strategy. Instead, I play an event. We get the Crusades, which I think Gandy put in there. I steal 4 culture from him. It's a huge swing. Remember, this is a 16-point swing in a 2-player game. Either you get it or your opponent gets it. Either you get 8 ahead or they get 8 ahead. So I win that swing, which is very nice. And now let's grab these horses. Let's finally upgrade my last mine. And I make kind of a weird call here. I upgrade rifles, and I take James Watt to help with just the selective breeding. It's a little bit minor. I could have considered Maria Theresa because I am thinking about going for military. Granted, I'd only be getting 1 free rock, not 3, because I'm ahead. I don't have that many production up or population growths left in me, but still a little bit of science, a little bit of culture could have been good. I could have also waited for another leader. I will end up wishing I had Napoleon, so maybe it would have been better just to wait. But here I spend 2 actions taking and playing Watt, and I grab Engineering Genius. I think this is a questionable move. Gandy took cartography, so there may very well be colonies in here. Navigation makes a lot of sense, especially if I am going to push strength. Also, just paying my civil action debt and researching selective breeding, because I know I'm going to want to upgrade one of those soon, would have made sense. So, Engineering Genius a bit questionable here. Taking and playing Watt a bit questionable here. Like, without taking and playing Watt, I could have just researched selective breeding for 5 and upgraded 1 for 4. And that may have been better because it would have left my hero spot, my leader spot open for Napoleon later. So a little bit of a dodgy turn here from me. But I upgrade my last rifleman. I am ready to do this war over territory with just rifles if the situation presents itself, and we pass the turn over to Gandy. So things are heating up. I also draw a Napoleonic army, so I'm like, oh my god, I really, I'm thinking that this could be a military game. All right, Gandy doesn't waste any time. He finishes the Kremlin. He could even take another wonder under construction if he wants to, but he decides not to. He raises population, grabs the opera for Bach, which makes sense. He could wait for this one to wheel around, but, I kind of understand the idea of just, not screwing around. What if I decide to do something goofy, like take the opera, and then this one is in the bitch spot, so it falls off? I kind of understand not dicking around, although he probably was just safe to wait for this opera to come his way. He raises population again. He's got a lot of unhappy faces, but he's ready to do it. He's ready to play the bread and circus, get a couple of bread and circuses, get Bach and opera. The only thing he hasn't done is fix his military. And what happens on my turn is the strategy falls into the 2 action spot. And that means it's time for me to declare this war with just the rifles. I research selective breeding, grab strategy. That's to make room in my hand because I was out of hand space. I then get the strategy down and make another rifle. I wish I had cavalrymen, of course, so I could have made a horse and started working towards this Napoleonic army. But I wouldn't have had the science to get the horse. And actually, that's totally not true. Oh my god, I think I made a mistake here. No, okay, hold on a second, I didn't make a mistake. Selective breeding costs 3 science because of what? So if I hadn't done that, I would have had 5 science. I would have been 1 science short of making strategy with horses. And yes, I would have definitely done the horse and built a horse instead of researching selective breeding to make room for strategy if I had the science to do that. I grab Revolutionary Idea because I do need science. My science production is getting a little low, and also the Roman roads is about to shut off. And there's my move. 17 strength versus 6. Strategy's gone, so Gandy doesn't have that. Really, all that he has is a cavalry and a cannon that he could take and research and make, but I just figured there was no real chance for him to beat me in this war. I was trying to figure out, what's, the worst case scenario? It's cavalry show up or cannon show up. Each of them has a tactic that gives 5. Actually, it's 5 for the cannons, only 4 for the horses. So let's say cannons. The other copy of cannons shows up. He spends 4 actions to take and research it. He spends a 5th action to make another worker, let's say by blowing up a lab. Or I guess by getting rid of a warrior, but let's say he wants to keep the strength as high as possible. He blows up a lab. He spends 10 rocks to make 2 cannons. And he drops the defensive army. Is that what it's called? I never remember the name. Fortifications, not defensive army. This is defensive army. Fortifications. All right, so 3 military actions, which admittedly, Kremlin, very important there with that military action. 3 military actions to make 2 cannons and the fortifications. That's 3, 6, plus 5 is 11 strength. He loses the fighting band, so 10 strength, so he's up to 16. He spent his entire turn, all his rocks, didn't do anything he needs to be doing, like doing Bach and opera and bread and circus. So then he's up to 16. He is already using Saladin for strength. The 6 actions are from Pyramids and Kremlin, so it's 16. I still steal a token, and I wasted his whole turn. And there's no guarantee cannons shows up, and there's no guarantee he has fortifications. And there's not even technically a guarantee he chooses to do that, even if those things do show up. So I thought the war was a pretty safe move. Kind of weird with these 4 rifles, but what can you do? Gandy is up, and no cannons. Vast territory does show up from the event that he flipped. which is annoying. I can't afford to spend anything. I maybe should have just thrown a rifle, but the thing is he's got the cartography, so he just beats my rifles on tie breaks. On the off chance he passes and I have to spend a rifle to win this, I actually, might regret it. So I just let him win it, and after he gets those tokens, spending just a single warrior, which is a hell of a deal, he decides to take he decides to build back the warrior and take the team sports. I don't know if this is correct or not, but it does make some sense because it is just way better than bread and circuses. So you're basically spending a 3 action tax to get this. There's a kind of a lot of garbage here that you don't. I mean, the reserves and the patriotism are nice. The Republic is nice. He could have researched Republic and bread and circus, but I can see him thinking, well, I have a lot of science saved up, but my science production's not that great. I don't want a government that only has 2 military actions attached, so let me just do this instead. It's also a little bit of extra strength compared to the bread and circuses. He researches that, makes 2 of them, fixes his happy faces for the whole rest of the game, gives himself some strength, and prepares himself for Pierre Mr. Olympics, and then after making another warrior for just a strength, he passes the turn. It's a little weird, this extra warrior. It doesn't give him an extra tactic, and it also does not hit a critical break point, right? He's still 6 behind. If he could have gotten to be 4 behind, then I would have stolen 1 less token from him, but I think this was maybe just a waste of a warrior here. In any case, he passes the turn, and it's over to me, and I'm very happy to steal 2 tokens. So he spent a warrior to get a colony to get 3 tokens, but then I stole 2 of them. I didn't have to spend any warriors for that, so I feel like we're both kind of okay. And now I'm not thrilled about it, but here you have to take these cannons. Oh, I also do a plunder, which, by the way, I think is correct. I think it's correct to do the plunder. Oh, that's why he built a warrior. God, I've looked at this game like 5 times. No matter how many times, that's why he made a warrior, is to be within 6. So he could do this, and then that saves him a card in hand. He could have still defended because he has a 3rd military action, so he could have still defended. So maybe that's what he was thinking, though, is to save an extra military card. All right, so that makes sense. Got it. And on my end, I think the plunder, like, even if I knew he had defense cards, I would still do it again. I have another H2 plunder here, so like let's get these defense cards out of the way and maybe make it harder for him to win colonies later. I think, taking a shot, and if you get lucky, you steal a bunch of resources, and it's backbreaking for your opponent. Even if you get unlucky, you're still making your opponent spend cards. I think it was fine. And then I got to take these cannon. So I researched the horses to make room for cannon in my hand. I make a population, I make a horse, and I take the cannon. I feel like I have to do it because this is the 2nd copy. If I don't do it, Gandy, Mr. Civil Action Pile over here, he's, a little bit behind on strength. He's definitely going to take the cannon. There's no way those are going to make it past him, so I got to just do it, much as it sucks. And I am looking for a military game. And this is one of the, delicious tensions of Through the Ages, is that nobody feels great in this game. Gandy doesn't feel great because he's way behind on strength and has no military technologies, but I don't feel great either because, if I don't draw aggressions and I don't draw war, I get nothing for all the strength investment that I'm doing. And unlike Gandy, who has Bach and Opera waiting in the wings to generate culture, I haven't solved that problem yet. The problem of how do I turn rocks into culture. Gandy also has an extra civil action compared to me, so I'm operating at less efficiency. He also has a bunch of science saved up, and I have none. So it's just like a little bit of a, tense situation in both directions kind of a thing. I try to draw as many cards as possible here. I get another war, which is really lucky because I already played one of these. There's only 1 war over territory left in the deck, and I draw it. There are also 2 wars over technology, which I would have liked to steal science, but still, there's only 3 war cards in the deck out of, a bajillion cards, and I do draw one of them, which is a nice stroke of fortune for me. All right, it's the last turn of H2 for Gandy. He has to get rid of Saladin, so he plays Bach. He makes another warrior. He researches the opera, but doesn't have the rocks to build it. He makes another population, and again, and he's going to grab some rocks here in the form of yellow cards. I'm going to quibble a little bit with this turn. He takes the reserves, but I think in this case, if you're using arenas for happy faces, you're not going to be using temples for happy faces, not in the least because both temple cards are gone. So you should use Bach's power to upgrade this temple into a theater. There's a efficient upgrade here that will help you do this. And so I think Gandy just missed that. He's going to end up wasting an action later to do this upgrade and play the reserves for rocks instead of actually using the efficient upgrade to do so efficiently. All right, so now the turn ends. And the question is, do I declare war on Gandy? And the answer is, well, yes, I can do cannon, put on the Napoleonic army. Don't want to wait too long with these things. You got to strike while the iron's hot. Now, I do wish I could take Napoleon and replace Watt with him because that would give me an extra 6 strength. But alas, the science savings on the selective breeding and then the 2 rock savings I make for upgrading 1 farm in this game is all I'm going to get for Watt. But still, it ends up being a pretty good war. So we hit H3. I discard the drama, the irrigation, and a card. And it's warring time, so War over Territory ×2. Here we go. I play the Revolutionary Dare for 5 critical signs. Thank you, Silk Road. I make the cannon, and here we have a really tough decision. Where's the worker coming from? I can disband a rifle, I can blow up a farm, or I can blow up a lab. I really agonized over this decision. I was really close to doing either of the 2 things that I didn't do, and I think the thing I did is the correct thing. So good on me for making the right choice. I decided to blow up a farm. So it may seem a little sucky to have only, a single selective breeder, especially with Watt. But since I am going to steal some tokens, and my yellow token bank is still in this area where 3 food is 2 food production per turn, I think that was the right call. Giving up science or giving up a rifle, both would have been pretty bad for me this game, I think. So I make the cannon, I have the Napoleonic army, I upgrade my farm, I got 1 action left to work with, and it was a tough choice between the justice system, which I do need extra actions, or the breakthrough, which I do need science. I went for the science. I figured, you know what, let's limp along 5 actions, much as that sucks, but I want to make sure I have science for more important things because, I am going to perhaps want airplanes. I am going to perhaps want a government. These things are expensive. And being able to do more than one thing, thanks to Breakthrough, felt more useful to me than just spending all my science and getting no science back in 2 turns for the justice system. Maybe I would have chosen differently if I had 4 science right now, but with 3 + 3 is 6, 1 short of 7, that seemed like the best call. So we got a pretty big war going on here. And credit to Gandy, 2 wars over territory, especially with a big strength difference, can, knock a player out. But he was really tenacious in this game. By no means is it over at this point. He flips another colony. I do bid a rifle because I figured I'll throw away 3 strength, even with this military theory here, and I can still beat him just in case he's passing on this colony. A weird thing happens. After winning this colony, Gandy plays a defense card. He didn't need to. He won with a bid of 3. Because we both bid 3, it's his turn, he wins the tiebreak. 1 warrior plus 2 colonization from the cartography is 3. So he threw away a defense card for basically no reason. It was just like one of those weird brain blip type of things, and it's hard to say. Would it have changed the outcome of the game? I like to think probably not, but it may have been significant. Anyway, on his turn, I was really curious to see what he would do. And what he decides to do is grab the military theory and research it. You could also maybe have made tanks, and with the patriotism and reserve, because he could have made 2 tanks and had the hussars. I still would have beaten him if he did, but it would have been close. He maybe doesn't have the hussars. I mean, he's only got 2 cards, so he goes for the military theory instead, builds an opera, and makes a warrior for an extra 2 strength. So he's 12 behind me here. Grab some food. And that means I am going to steal a whopping 3 yellow tokens. But, thanks to his 4 yellow tokens from these 2 colonies and his farms, he's, still able to slowly get some workers out of here. He could potentially redirect these warriors into better military techs at some point, and he's also got these 2 labs as a worker battery. So he's not necessarily out of the game. I was still very nervous here because with this, in my opinion, pretty smart move to grab the opera while he had the chance, he is now making more culture than me per turn, and the slightly that I had earlier because of the Silk Road has now been used up. Even with me getting 2 culture from the Roman roads, which is really, really good, I'm, kind of keeping up. I'm going to fall behind pretty quickly, especially if he gets another opera going. So I still need to keep the strength, flowing. On my turn, I fling the plunder at him. And, if he had that defense card that he didn't throw away, and if one of these is a defense card, he could have maybe held off the aggression. If that was his only defense card, well, 4 + 5 is 9. It wasn't enough to stop the aggression. But I'll never know if this plunder would have gotten through. It does end up being a pretty important plunder. The reason this plunder is important, I was really, by the way, stressing over what to take with it. I decided to take 2 food and 3 rocks. And the reason is something I learned from Weidenbaum, which is kind of embarrassing because it's not that complicated and I should have figured it out myself. But when you're thinking about what resources you need, you want to just look ahead a few turns and figure out what it will take for you to be able to, in this case, get a worker every turn. So before I took the 2 food from plunder, I had 3 food. So I could make a warrior this turn, or a worker this turn, and then I would get 2 more and be 1 food short of making my next one. But by stealing 3 food, I make it so I can take this one, go to 2, gain 2, I have 4, take this one, then I go down to 1, gain 2, have 3, and then the following turn make this one. So the 2 food lets me get 1 worker per turn every turn for the next 3 turns, and that is important so that I can do another really obvious thing I learned from Weidenbaum, which is to try to spend my military actions every turn without going below 3. I want to try to make as many of these armies as possible. My strategy was keep the military pressure high. He doesn't know I'm out of aggressions and I'm out of wars, and try to force him to play inefficiently so he doesn't keep pushing on this culture lead, and maybe give me a chance to catch up somehow if some good culture card shows up and I can pivot to it. Or if I do actually get, more aggressions or wars, I obviously then have the military strength ready to go to blast him back into the Bronze Age. All right, I decided to make a move that I'm not 100% certain of. I take scientific method, research it with breakthrough for 4 science, thank you Silk Road, and then I actually just upgrade both labs. My thinking was that there is Sid Meier in the game, and so this opens me up to the potential to grab him for 4 easy culture, but I think that was actually a mistake, and we're going to see why that's a mistake in a little bit. And also, I didn't see much else to do here. I mean, what exactly else is there for me to do? I could take Air Force that I can't afford on 3 science. I don't have the arenas for Mr. Pierre. I don't need the tanks. I could hate draft the tanks, okay, but then he can just take cavalrymen. So Gandy caught a little bit of a break here. There's only 1 of each military tech in H3 except for the 2 airplanes. And so hate drafting them can be very significant because if your opponent's in a situation like this, they desperately need the military techs, but it was the tanks here. If it was modern infantry or the rockets, I'd have been like, yeah, let's hate draft those, but taking these and letting him get the cavalry just doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. So there just wasn't that much to do, and because of that I thought, hey, let's just take the turn to beef up my science production. And maybe that's actually worth it on its own. It does use up some rocks, but I didn't have any other way to use the rocks, so maybe I'm fine with it. It's just the Sid Meier logic that I will tell you why I disagree with, but in any case, I make a horse using up exactly up to 3 military actions of stuff, and then I pass the turn and I wait to see what I draw, and I draw, it's not the greatest, but it is good to see the defense cards because it means that he is less likely to get them. And this is 14 points, so that's not nothing, though obviously I would have preferred a war or something that I can get rocks from. All right, Gandy's not going to pass on Air Forces, obviously. I am like, oh, yay, Sid Meier, although I really shouldn't have been. He's going to grab Winston Churchill, which makes sense because he needs some help getting all these military techs down. But he's not going to play him yet. He's going to play reserves and upgrade a temple to a theater. So he could have had an extra action if he had taken the efficient upgrade. That would have let him, let's say, take the military buildup for 2 actions now. But, he's got a wave of nationalism here, so I guess it's not that crazy. But yeah, he could have taken, tanks. Oh, no, he's out of hand size. So maybe it would have actually been a little tricky for him to use the extra action from the efficient upgrade. Okay, not the biggest deal in the world then. So he takes tanks, he fills up his hand, and then he passes the turn. So I don't have a war or anything else to do, but I fling the armed intervention at him. He does have the defense, but that's fine. Maybe if I get a better aggression later, then that is now more likely to get through because he spent a couple of defense cards. Now, 4 defense cards are accounted for, the 2 in my hand plus the 2 that he just spent, so there's not that many left in the deck, so I'm very likely now to get any aggressions through. And I take Sid Meier and I play him. Now, replacing James Watt, of course, was pretty high on my priority list of things to do because he doesn't do anything. He's just giving me 3 culture when he leaves. I am not planning to make another selective breeding. I'm just going to deal with the workers that I've got. But why is it wrong, in my opinion, to go for Sid Meier and get this juicy 4 culture from these 2 labs I made? Well, the reason is something that didn't even occur to me until after I'd reviewed this game multiple times, and that is Nelson Mandela. This is one of those mental heuristics, right? Where you take shortcuts. You think, okay, don't take Nelson Mandela if you don't have an unhappy worker. If I hadn't built that religion way back in the day, I could have done the move where you disband your temple, make this happy face sad, and then take Nelson Mandela with no penalty. But this is one of those things where I should have just taken him with the penalty. Because what he's doing right now is he's giving me an extra civil action, which I desperately need, and 2 culture per turn. Actually, for the moment, though that'll change soon, 3 because I got this extra happy face. So he's giving me a civil action and 3 culture per turn. Sid Meier is giving me 4 culture per turn and -2 science. So I'm paying essentially 1 culture per turn to get 2 extra science, which is an amazing trade-off because I desperately need the science. Now, what about the action penalty? Well, it cost me 2 actions to take Sid, whereas Nelson was in the 1 action row. So it's not really a 3 action penalty. It's only a 2 action penalty because Sid costs an extra action. In addition, Nelson's action is available right away. So it's not really a 2 action penalty, it's really only a 1 action penalty. So for a 1 action penalty, I get to keep 2 science per turn, admittedly make a little bit less culture, and have 1 extra civil action for the rest of the game. That was the correct move. I'm 100% certain of it. Now, what am I doing with my other actions this turn? The answer is nothing much. I can raise population, and there's just nothing for me to do with my last 2 actions. Maybe I could have taken Engineering Genius, but it was already speculative enough as is that I had the H2. As far as wonders go, the Empire State Building can only use 1 Engineering Genius card because it's a single stage. So I have to be somehow gambling that with my very low actions and already having 2 wonders, so a new wonder cost at minimum 3 actions to take. I'm somehow going to use 2 Engineering Geniuses. There's no point in this. I'm always going to be ahead on strength, although actually we're going to end up seeing maybe that's not true. Maybe I should have just taken it on the wild chance that Gandy got ahead of me. I think even with knowing what happens, like, no, this is just, it's just a ridiculous thing to do here. It's falling away. There's no hate draft element to it. I end up taking movies for 2, which I knew as I did it was stupid. There was just nothing better for me to do here. The reason it's dumb is that there's another copy of movies and 2 multimedia still in the deck, so there's just no reason for me to do this, and it's going to be a long time before I make a movie. I'm going to be pouring all my rocks that I can into army stuff, so, like, this is just not a priority that's going to happen anytime soon. But in any case, I pass the turn. Very instructive miss on Mandela here. And I draw an amazing draw. This is just gold tier level of drawing. So we have the War Over Culture, so now we know that we're going to get it on. The Modern Army actually justifies that weird 4th rifle I built ages ago. Now with just 1 more cannon, I have 2 instances of this tactic. We are locked and loaded, ready to fire some cannons and blow the enemy into the water. Even the impact of science is good. It might not look like it, but with all this military pressure that I'm applying, even with low science and a 2 science penalty from Sid, there's a really good chance, like, I'm not rushing to put this into the deck or anything, but there's a really good chance that I actually am just going to be able to beat him on it, especially as a second player. If I can hang on to this throughout the age, I can just wait and pop it in at the end when I'm guaranteed to get it. So that was an incredible draw. I did get quite a lucky break there, and I was very excited going into Gandy's turn. He plays an event. It's another friggin' colony, but this time I got him. So see, me spending his defense cards is a big deal because I bid exactly 6. I just bid 1 rifle and 1 defense card. No, I must have been willing to play 2. Okay, so I bid 9. It would have been difficult for him to catch me, but he did spend 2 defense cards warding off that armed intervention. With those, he would have been at 11, and he would have won this colony, which would have been pretty good because, I mean, his yellow bank is quite empty here. Instead, for just a single rifle, I get to stop him from getting 4 tokens back in here, and I get some for myself, which just cements the fact that selective breeding is going to be good for the rest of the game, and also that Nelson Mandela would have been generating me an extra culture, even for the moment, 2 extra culture for the entire rest of the game. All right, he raises population, grabs the rockets, because, of course, he doesn't want me to hate draft them. He puts down Churchill, gets Churchill's bonus, gets those rockets in there. He plays the patriotism, and he makes a rocket. Now, he doesn't have an action left over to make another worker get more rocks and make another rocket. It's worth noting he was probably pretty safe. I only have 5 actions. It would have been quite costly for me to hate draft rockets. But then again, if he hadn't taken rockets, he probably would have taken other cards. But still, even 2 actions to hate draft rockets would have been a lot for me. But still, he has the 6 actions. He wants to get the strength down immediately. He's now able to ward off aggressions with a single defense card. Granted, he might not have a single defense card. I would have definitely done an aggression with him only having 5 military cards and being 7 strength behind and only 3 defense cards being left in the deck. but I didn't have an aggression. So now actually the question is, do I declare war? And it might seem like the obvious answer is yes. But because I did spend a rifle to get a colony, the actual answer is no, not yet. The problem is 3 actions for the war, 1 action for the cannon, 1 action for the rifle back, and then another action for actually putting down the army. And what we find out is that adds up to 6, and I only have 5. So I wait a turn on the war. It's very dangerous to wait for wars because every turn you wait, your opponent, can get ahead. But I think in this case, it makes sense since I have a really big lead. I'm going to get a really big boost from this. It's okay. It's not actually that big because 3 Napoleonic armies is 21. 2 of these is 26. So I could have gotten 3 by making 2 cannons and a horse. But this way I can make a cannon and a rifle. That's 1 less worker. And I get to 26, which is, still 5 higher than 3 7s. So it's not like huge, but still it's a boost. I think it was worth it given Gandy's potential to wait on this war. All right, we get a strategic territory, and I only now have 1 defense card because I just spent 1. So I can only bid 6, and Gandy does go to 7. He cashes out all of his warriors with this. So he's going to redirect them to his tanks and rockets, which is a pretty savvy way of doing things. Plus he draws a bunch of cards for good events, stops me from drawing cards, getting potentially more wars and more aggressions, and the 4 strength. That's an 8 strength swing, right? Either he's ahead of me by 4 or I'm ahead of him by 4. So it's a really big deal that he won this. Maybe I should have been willing to bid more than 1 unit. And also it's worth noting I could have gotten navigation way back in the day, maybe, and then I would have potentially won this colony. All right, I decided to take a civil service because I have a bunch of signs saved up. I really wanted a government, but at this point there isn't a government here, and I just want a good option now, better than the best option later kind of a deal. Obviously, would I have liked a fundamentalism for 6 extra strength or democracy for 3 extra culture? Yes, but it's not here, and I do think I need to fix my actions. Maybe if I had Mandela, I wouldn't need to do this. But without it, I go up to 7 actions, so now I'm feeling pretty healthy with my actions for the first time all game, and we gotta continue on with the plan. So I take the reserves because we want as many rocks as possible, raise population, make a cannon, make a rifle, keeping myself at 3. With my last 2 actions, grab some more reserves. I want to have them for myself. I don't want Gandy to have them for 1 action, certainly. And then I put down the modern army. I don't want to wait. Even though I'm missing out on a draw, Gandy is not really close to getting the modern army. He would have to get the modern infantry, which would be 19 science with it in the tanks, 16 even with Churchill's help if it's in the same turn. I'm not worried about him copying it, and I want to spend the military action now so that if airplanes... Never mind. Airplanes, I'm 1 science away from researching. So, I don't know what the point is actually of getting that down. I mean, I have what I need. I have the war, and I have the impact of science. I've put impact of culture in there, by the way, because once he got rid of Bach, even though it was a kind of a narrow thing, I figured I could probably beat him on the culture. I had what I needed, and I thought, let's get this out of the way, but maybe I didn't really need to do this. But on the other hand, maybe it just doesn't matter because he's not going to copy it, and I do pass on a draw, but it's hard to say. I draw another war and a plunder, and now Gandy flips an event in its crime wave. I get a little bit lucky. There is, a actually, how lucky did I get here? What else is there that's relevant for military? I guess the modern infantry, he already has airplanes and fundamentalism, maybe, though he can't research fundamentalism. So yeah, it's not that big of a deal. I guess I'm just a little lucky modern infantry doesn't show up, but he still has to research the tanks anyways. So we flipped this board, and he's obviously got to do something for military here. So he pops Churchy's ability, gets the rockets, researches tanks, uses up one of his lab battery workers, makes a tank, and he does have the mechanized army. So he's up to 39. He also grabs democracy, which is a bit ambitious, but there's not really much for him to take here anyways. When's he going to make a multimedia? It's just like not going to happen. Grabs efficient upgrade, though there's nothing to upgrade, but what else is there for him to do? And then he passes the turn. Now the big question is, do I declare a war? And it might seem like the obvious answer is, well, yes, obviously you declare the war. But the weird thing is, I think it's actually correct not to declare the war. I thought about it a lot, and I realized that, I've got a good chance to win this game here. Since he had to give away Bach, and he keeps using Churchill's bonus for rocks and science, I mean, it's neck and neck. I'm the second player. It's my turn. So I'm about to go like 10 culture ahead. I've got the military lead. I think that my chances are very good. and I didn't want to throw it away doing something stupid. So here, if you flip a war, weirdly, there's nothing really much that you can do to raise your strength any further. I could make basically 6 flat strength for making 2 units go up to 59. Gandy, however, don't be fooled by this 11. Unlike my 11, his 11 is not insufficient because with Churchill's 3 science bonus, he can make air forces. And by the way, you know who else could make air forces? Me, if I hadn't taken Sid Meier, because I would have been making 2 extra science per turn. So anyways, also, I would have been making 4 culture per turn with Mandela because now both happy faces are actually covered up after that vast territory. Anyway, not that I'm bitter. The point is, I can only get 6 more strength realistically, and that would take me up to 59. Gandy can research airplanes and make 2 airplanes. If this top card is a economic progress or arms industry, both of those would give him 4 rocks. So he'd be 7 plus 4 is 11, plus 3 is 14, also plus Churchill is actually 17. Without that, he's 1 rock short of making 2 airplanes because 7 plus Churchill is 10, and then that plus 3, this is an H2, is only 13. But if he gets help from that H2 card, he can slam down air forces, blow up a farm in a lab or a mine in a lab, make 2 airplanes, and then he gets 15 strength for the first one, because it's 5 plus the tactic is 10, and then just 5 flat strength for the second one. The second one can technically actually maybe not be an airplane. Maybe you should probably work on getting another copy of this tactic. The point is the second one's a 5 flat strength, age 3 military unit for a total of 20 strength. He goes up to 59. And if that is a 4 rock thing, he then technically has 3 rocks left over. He could blow something else up and like make a warrior or some dumb thing and actually beat me 60 to 59. And with things being as close as they are, and me having the potential to actually pull off a war and win a lot of points, I thought that this was an unnecessary risk. It may seem a little bit paranoid to like worry about arms industry or economic progress, but like I was like, you know, bad players get unlucky more often than good players because they give themselves more chances to get unlucky. Why risk it? Also, something I realized in this game is that we often think of the second player as having a disadvantage in wars and aggressions, which is true. You know, you can play through the ages for a little while and it's not that hard to realize, like, okay, every time that the first player goes, they have had as many turns or more as the second player. You know, like when the first player declares an aggression, let's say on round 15, they have had 14 turns to make their military, and so has player 2. Whereas if the second player declares an aggression on round 15, the first player's already taken his 15th turn, but the second player hasn't. So the second player is using 14 turns of buildup to attack someone who has had 15 turns to reply to it. And that is a big advantage, but one interesting thing is that in this case, I really want airplanes, because the airplanes would be huge. Each airplane is worth 18 strength. And I could potentially, with these reserves, do a war with 2 airplanes. But imagine if airplanes is the last card in the deck. As the first player, if you're waiting for airplanes and it's the last card in the deck, you literally cannot declare a war with airplanes. Because by the time the last card in the deck is flipped, it's age 4. And if you're the first player taking your turn on age 4, it's your last turn of the game and you can't declare war. But the second player, there's at least a chance that age 4 is flipped on your turn, you can declare war in age 4 and grab those airplanes and use them. So I thought since I'm the second player, I should wait for the airplanes and then do a war. Now I have 2 wars, so I could have done 2 wars, but I just didn't think it was worth it to even do one if there was a risk that I would lose it, especially since I had a good alternative. I got this plunder here. I am 14 strength ahead. There are only 3 defense cards left in the deck for H3, and Gandy has no H2 cards left in hand. So this was overwhelmingly likely to go through. It would make it easier for me to build stuff up, make it harder for him to build stuff up. I could just totally cripple him here. And I think that, you know, it's one of those things where you don't just want to look at your strength and be like, oh yeah, it's wartime. You got to really think about it and make sure that you're making the safest and most likely to be impactful call. Now, as it happens, he had 2 of the 3 defense cards in the deck. He had them. So he was able to block 14 strengths worth of power. He needed 2. 1 would not have been enough. He had them. So I was a little bit devastated by this. But okay, time to pick yourself back up emotionally and carry on. We have the Empire State Building here. I am currently leading, admittedly by a hair, on 3 categories. 10 versus 9, 5 versus 3. That's another reason, by the way, that I was happy about the impact of science. Not only is it unlikely that he would spend rocks and workers to make more science, but he was going to, I thought, be very likely to use those labs as workers for the military, which would make it even more likely I could win the science eventually. So anyways, I'm beating him on science and culture and obviously strength. Tied on rocks, and I'm never going to beat him on food, but that's okay. That's still 3 categories for 21 points. I play reserves for 5 critical rocks from the Silk Road, which just lets me use the engineering genius to build it. Granted, the last action's not impressive, so if I had to have spent the last action to play another copy of reserves, it would have been fine, but here I take the multimedia. So now I can make a multimedia at the end of the game for 3 whole extra culture. It's not really a significant thing. We pass the turn. I get more wars that I'm never going to use, an armed intervention that I might use, and I'm really carefully watching the deck because I want to see if those airplanes are coming, and they are, so there they are. He plays an event. It is economic progress, so he could have beaten me in the war by 1 strength if I had declared war previously. Here, he is going to make a big move. He researches planes, makes a worker, makes a plane, grabs revolutionary idea, and the urban growth, and another revolutionary idea. So he's got the science ready to go for these modern infantry, and he's just daring me to hate draft them. But I think he made the right call, because I don't really want to spend actions hate drafting this when he already has a pretty good tactic. Like, yes, I know that he can take the modern army from me, but that's only 3 more strength than the mechanized army, and he, may very well actually be able to make another copy of this. Actually, that's not true. 7 plus 6 is 13, plus 3... No, he didn't play these. These are H2. They're going to go away. Never mind. He's not going to be able to make another copy of mechanized army. It's too expensive. It's 21 rocks. He's got 13, plus Churchill is 3, that's 16. And we're out of age 2 cards, so there's no arms industry or anything like that in here. So he's not going to make another copy of this. I figured the modern infantry didn't actually matter. So now it is wartime. Airplanes drops to 1 for me, which is great. By the way, I should mention, if Gandhi had come out earlier in the game, instead of being one of the 4 last cards in the deck, this could have been very different. It would have been very difficult for me to declare war on him. He may have just been able to build operas behind Gandhi all day and cruise to a victory. It's very possible that if the deck had been flipped in order, then this game would have gone completely the other way. But as it is, I declare the war, grab the planes, make a couple of workers, I play the reserves with 5 rocks thanks to Silk Road, and then I pop out these airplanes. So now I'm up to 89 strength, and just to note, if the airplanes had been the last card in the deck instead of being here in the 1 action spot, I still could have done this. It ends up being totally insignificant that I have these 2 extra actions. I get to take reserves, which will help me make a multimedia, but it doesn't really matter that much, and so then I pass the turn, and at this point I'm pretty sure I'm going to win the game. Now Gandy makes a pretty heroic last stand. He plays an event, which gives him a little bit of an edge against me. He plays the revolutionary idea, grabs the modern infantry, pops Churchy's ability again, makes the modern infantry, blows up a lab, blows up a farm, makes another modern infantry with exactly the number of rocks he needs, and he plays a modern army from his own hand, saying he's an independent fat guy in a hat, he's strong, and he don't need no tactics pool. And, I mean, it's pretty impressive. He was under my heel all game, starting in age 2. And he managed to get all four age 3 military technologies, 3 of which there is a single copy of, and make 2 of them. One of the others have the best tactic in the game, copied by an airplane for 70 strength. On low science production, never getting above 4 science production, with the military theory no less, he afforded all of that. 70 strength is enough to just dominate many 2-player games, but here, he's 19 strength behind. He's going to lose 24 culture to me, and that closes the door on any hope he might have had of catching up. On my turn, which is very insignificant, I play an event. He put Impact of Colonies in there, gets 3 extra points from me against that. By the way, it would have technically been precise to play the Armed Intervention, because I'm guaranteed to make it. Now that there is only like 1 defense card in the deck, I know for a fact he cannot get up here. But the way the app works is that the app will like pass the turn over to the person. The app will give you an automatic success on aggressions if you have more strength than what the person could theoretically get with all their military actions being the defense card of the highest type that it can be. But here, the app is not going to do something like, oh, we have seen this many cards accounted for, because of course that would give away information. So the app is saying, hey, if these are all defense cards, haha, he could do 30 strength. So it would like send it back over to him, and I just didn't feel like wasting the time for that, especially because that's only 14 culture. And the impact of science that I put in is 13. It's still imprecise. It's not just the one culture. It's the fact that I flip an event that I might have been able to improve on, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I did it. I play the multimedia, raise population, get some rocks, make a multimedia for 3 whole extra culture, raise population again in case impact of population is in there. I also make a temple for an extra culture, and that's it. So at the end of the day, the events are not super significant. The 2 that I put in there each give me 10 points against them. The 2 that he put in there each give him 8 points against me. So it's mostly a wash. And we end the game with a nice, comfortable 82-point lead. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like and or subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Take care.